Well, welcome back. Dr. Samuel Jones. I'm here to share some encouraging words and hopefully some strategies to help you to renovate your relationships to win with what you have left. Now, if you've been watching any of the videos, we've been talking about Naomi and Ruth and her story and just the whole atmosphere of what happened and what she did and how she had to do it. And so today we're going to talk about renovating your relationships. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read Ruth, the first chapter, 8 through the 14th verse. If you recall, if you can remember. So let me summarize. So of course, Naomi and her husband and her two sons and their wives, their two sons moved to Moab, and her two sons married Moab women, Moabites, right? And so it says, the scripture says, and within 10 years, Naomi lost her husband and she lost both of her sons. And so now she is left with two daughter-in-laws. And Naomi is trying to go back home to Judah. And so we're going to pick up. And this is where we're talking about renovating your relationships. And when I think about renovating your relationships, right, it's like rebuilding your relationships. You know, whenever you go through a renovation, there's a redesigns, you rip out things, you knock down walls, right? You just get rid of some things and then you bring in some new things or maybe some things you've already had to make things look a little bit better. And so I'm going to read the verses 8 through 14 and just kind of want you to just think about what's happening right here. The scripture says, "And Naomi said unto her two daughter-in-laws, Go return each of her to mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as ye have dealt with the dead and me. May the Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed him. So Naomi kissed him, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. Now, if you just listen to that, so Naomi is telling her daughter-in-laws, listen, both of you have done well by my sons. You were great wives for him, but your husbands has died. My husband has died. Listen, I'm going back home, and I'm going to give both of you permission to go back home since you're already here. So listen, you all stay here. I'm going back home. Now, I love this because when I think about this is how you renovate your relationships, right? So you have Orpah and Ruth. Both of these are sister-in-laws. Naomi gives both of them permission to go back home. Now, I love how the scripture talks about how they were emotional. You can tell they were all connected, right? They loved each other. You can see that. However, she gave both of them permission to leave. Orpah goes back home. Ruth stays with her. Now, so when you're talking about renovating your relationships, what are you talking about? Well, like in this story, some people you just have to release them to go back home, right? It's not that they were a bad person. It's not that they did some bad things in your life. It's none of that, because the scripture says that Orpah, you can tell they had a great relationship, but Orpah decided to go back home. And that's okay, and it doesn't make her a bad person. But when I'm talking about renovating your relationships, Ruth decided to stay with her. So when we renovate our relationships, there are some people that we really need to keep in our life. And I don't care how tough things get, we need to keep them around. If you recall in a previous video, I talked about some things that keep people from renovating their relationships. Well, what are they? There are 5 things, and I'll just run through them real quick. Number 1, the fear of change. People don't renovate their relationships because they're afraid that things are going to change, that I'm going to be different, you're going to be different, we're all going to be different. Don't allow that to stop you from renovating your relationships. Number two, communication barriers, right? You can see in that story that they broke down all the communication barriers. They both expressed how they truly felt. But I love how Naomi got down to the core of what she was feeling. She was not worried about what they were going to think about her. She wanted them to understand that, listen, both of you have been great daughter-in-laws for me. You took care of my sons, but you know what? I'm freeing you. And guess what? In our communication barriers, we need to work around those things and clearly communicate to people what we feel, what we understand, and just make sure that we're expressing things from our heart. Number three, another thing that stops us from renovating our relationships is the fear of being vulnerable. You can tell Ruth was not afraid of being vulnerable. Orpah was not afraid of being vulnerable. More importantly, Naomi was not, because they expressed their feelings. Right? When you recognize that I don't have afraid or fear to be vulnerable, I'm definitely going to let you know how I feel. Because I want you to understand that I'm speaking from my heart. I'm speaking from my soul. And I want you to truly understand that I care about you and I'm concerned about your well-being. Number four, another reason why we fail to renovate our relationships, lack of trust. And I can promise you, if you're not vulnerable with people, they're not going to trust you. I don't care what profession you're working in. I don't care about what the titles are. If you will not allow yourself to be vulnerable with people, they will not trust you. And guess what? They're going to renovate the relationships then, because if they can't trust you, they're going to get you out of their life. So remember, if you want to be vulnerable with people, you want to build trust with people, communicate with them and learn how to be vulnerable. And then last but not least, the last one in terms of what stops people from renovating their relationships is unforgiveness, right? We got to learn how to forgive people. And I'm telling you, Naomi, she was not worried about her daughter-in-laws and how they were going to feel about her. She said, you know what? I'm looking out for you, and I want you to understand that I want what's best for you. So now I'm going to share with you 5 strategies that we can use from this story in terms of how to renovate our relationships. You know why? Because there are some relationships that we need to have in our life in order to help us to win with what we have left. So don't worry about who walks out of your life, even when you give them permission to. Because Naomi gave Naomi gave Orpah permission. She gave them both permission, but Ruth stayed. And Orpah said, you know what? I'm going back home. So here are 5 strategies that we need to use in order to renovate our relationships to win with what we have left. And I say 5 strategies, but really these are 5 commitments. These are just 5 things that I want to encourage us to commit to. Number 1, we need to commit to open and honest communication. I don't care what relationship you have, if you're going to renovate it, make a commitment to be open and honest in all of your communications. Don't be concerned about what they think. Don't be worried about what they're going to feel. No, just be open and honest. And when you commit to that open and honest communication, you're going to renovate the relationship because you're going to draw each other closer. And that's what Ruth and Naomi did. The longer they stayed together, oh my goodness, they became closer and closer and closer. And you'll see in the story later on, when Naomi, she called her daughter. She saw her as her own daughter. But then she started mentoring her and she started coaching her. When Ruth needed the most, Naomi was right there with her. So that's the importance of committing to open and honest communication. Number 2, if we're going to renovate our relationships, we have to commit to the pruning process. Okay? The pruning process is so very important. I love what Henry Cloud says in his book, Necessary Endings. Listen, if you have not read that book, I encourage you to read it. That book changed my life. That book helped me to prune some processes, yes, but it also helped me to prune some people out of my life. In the book, he talks about a rosebud, and he said there are 3 reasons why you should prune a rosebud. And these are the three reasons why we should be in the pruning process with the people in our life. He said, you prune a rose bush for three reasons. Number one, that rose bush has a bud that is good that will never be great. Think about that. You're going to prune that rose bush because if it's good and never be great, you need to prune it. Number two, he says that rose bush has a bud that is sick that can never get well. Prune that bud. Okay, get it out of your life. If it's sick and never get well, get it out of your life. And then the last reason he said, if it's dead, it can never come back to life. Those are three reasons why we should prune. So whenever I think about the pruning process, I'm always evaluating. Is this relationship good and it'll never be great? Is this relationship sick that'll never be well? Is this relationship dead that can never be brought back to life? Those are three reasons, good reasons to prune. And I'm telling you, that's what Naomi was doing. She didn't realize what she was doing. But guess what? Ruth decided to stay and Orpah decided to leave. And guess what? There's going to be some people that's going to leave out of your life. It's okay. Be okay with that. Okay? But make a commitment to the pruning process. Why? Because there are some relationships that you need to have if you're going to win in order with what you have left. So that's number two. Number three, I encourage us to make a commitment to unity and compassion. I love how when Naomi got back home and Ruth was right there with her, and Ruth and all the people, they were excited that both of them were back. But if you listen to how Naomi, her identity became what she had been through, and don't you know that Ruth was right there with her? Have you ever been around somebody who you've been close to for a long time, and you may travel with them or you may go back home with them, and they hadn't seen them in a long time, and you know what that person has been through, and everybody says, oh, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? And the first thing that person says is, oh my goodness, you have no idea. Man, I've been through storms. I've been through rain. I had a heart attack. And they start talking about all the heartache and pain that they've had in life. People that love you, that's been traveling with you, they won't judge you. They're going to be unity. They're going to have unity with you. And they're going to have compassion on you. And don't you know that's what Ruth did for Naomi? Ruth was right there with her, listening to her, see how she saw herself. They said, hey, Naomi. And Naomi was like, no, don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. You know what? I left here full. I left here with my husband. I left here with 2 sons. But God has brought me back empty. I don't have a son. I don't have my 2 sons. I don't have my husband. Matter of fact, one of my daughter-in-laws, she left me. Oh, I'm down in the dumps. Oh, look at what God has done to me. But you know what? Ruth was right there with her. You know why? Because Ruth was unified with her, and she had compassion on her because Ruth understood that she needed somebody. And I'm telling you, if you can make a commitment to unity and compassion in your life, especially with those people that you have great relationships with, or maybe some of those sour relationships with that need to be in your life, that's what they need. So make a commitment to unity and compassion. Number four, commit to investing quality time. Oh my goodness. I can promise you, for me, that's one of the things that I've been working on. So if you follow me on social media, you'll notice that I really haven't posted anything on social media. I've been on a social media detox. And you know what that's done for me? It's helped me to commit to more quality time with the people that I care about. You know, before I started doing all these videos, I was getting up every single morning, posting something on all of my social media channels. Any thoughts that I may have had, just trying to encourage people and spur people on. And it started hitting me the last couple of years that, man, it became a burden. Not just getting up doing it every single day, but just some of the things on social media. For example, whenever I have a birthday, right? A birthday is supposed to be a day of celebration, a day of rest, and a day of all of these things. But you know what? The last couple of years, it's become a burden. Why? Because I'm trying to respond to all of the happy birthday wishes, right? I wanted to like it, and I wanted to say thanks, and all of these things. And this year, I got to a point, I said, you know what? I'm not even going on social media on my birthday. Why? Because now I'm not investing quality time with the people who I see right in front of me. And I began to say, you know what, I'm going to make a commitment to invest in quality time that are people that are right in front of me. And don't you know that's what Ruth did with Naomi? Ruth said, you know what? I came back home with you. I know what you've been through. I know what you lost. As a matter of fact, we've lost some things together. I lost my husband. You lost 2 sons and a husband. I'm going to commit to quality time with you. And you know what that quality time did for the both of them? Oh my goodness. It was something special. And when people are going through things, they need to be reminded of something special. They need to be reminded that people still care about them. And I'm telling you, the people who you need to invest quality time in with is not the people on social media, is not the people who are liking all of your posts, who are not the people who you're constantly following, trying to stay updated to what they have going on in their life. You know what? It's the people right in front of you. Commit to quality time and with them. Okay, so I want to encourage you on that. And the last thing is, commit to the well-being of other people. You know, as the story goes on, Ruth comes back and she's right there at home with Naomi. And the scripture says that Ruth began to go to work. Ruth began to find fields to go to work in. And Ruth began to work hard all day. And don't you know the reputation of Ruth and what she has done for her mother-in-law is spread throughout the town? And don't you know that's how she eventually met Boaz? I'm telling you, when she made that commitment for the well-being of her mother-in-law, man, that is so powerful. Who in your life will you make a commitment to the well-being for? Right? Is it your spouse? Is it your children? Is it your parents? Who is it? Right? Because I'm telling you, that's why it's so important to renovate the relationships in your life. I promise you, the older you get, you'll realize what's really, really important. And I thank God that all of the things that I've ever been through in this thing called life, the older I get, the more I realize what's really, really important and what's not really important. Now, I must say this. So anyone on social media that's said anything to me, happy birthday, happy anniversary, congratulations. Listen, I don't take that for granted. I say thank you to all of that. However, I do say that's not the most important thing in my life now. So I just want to encourage you out there, you know, take time to make that quality and invest time in the people that's right before you. So let me run through these 5 things again. These 5 things that I want to encourage you to commit to, because I'm constantly committing to them as well. And guess what? I'm holding myself to these standards as well. So number 1, we talked about committing to open and honest communication. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and your concerns and what you feel. Number 2, commit to the pruning process. There are some people in your life that they just don't need to be in your life anymore. Allow them the freedom to leave. That's what Naomi did with both of Orpah and Ruth. Ruth stayed. Orpah decided to go back. So there's some Orpahs in your life. Just allow them, just say, you know, you have the freedom to go back home. And it's okay. And I'm not going to take it personal. And it's all good. Okay? Number 3, commit to unity and compassion. The people around you that stick with you in your relationships, be unified with them, but also have compassion on them. Because there's some things that they don't know, and there's some things that they've been through that sometimes they don't even know how to communicate it. People need compassion. Number 4, commit to investing quality time with the people that's right before you. Again, social media is good. I use it. You use it. But don't forget about the people who are right in front of you, who know you, who love you, who spend time with you. Invest that quality time. Commit to that. And last but not least, consider to commit to the well-being of others. Right? Everything that you do, who you're doing it for. Right? What I'm doing right now, I'm doing it for you, but I'm also doing it because God inspired me to do it. All of us have gifts, skills, and talents, and all of us were made not just for ourselves. As a matter of fact, we were not made for ourselves. We were made to serve each other. Why? Because that's how we know we love each other. More importantly, that's how we know we love God. Because God is love. And he tells us that how can we love him if we don't love the people that's right in front of us? And if we love each other, we will serve each other and look out for the well-being of others. And that's what it's all about. So listen, I want to encourage you. After watching this video, go and renovate your relationships. Who do you need to free in your life? But more importantly, who do you need to hold on to in your life? Who do you need to cling to in your life? And those people that you need to cling to, take these 5 things to commit to and make them a priority. And I promise you, if you do that, you're going to not only going to renovate the relationships in your life, but you're going to win with what you have left. So listen, whatever you have left, whoever you have left, God intended that for it to be what it is. And it's just what you need. And I recognize the people that I have left in my life, it's just who I need. So listen, take this information, like it, comment on it, share it with someone who you feel like could be beneficial for them. And I'm excited about sharing this information, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. See you soon.